Hi and welcome. My name is Rob Scott from UC Today, and in this UC Summit session, we'll be discussing the future of CX in the new normal. And to help explore this topic, I'm joined by Richard McCrossan, Strategic Business Director at Genesys, and Martin Taylor, Deputy CEO at Content Guru. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks very much, Rob.
Nice to see you both. So, just before we get started with today's session, how about we do just a quick round of introductions? Richard, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. Coming to you today from a Christmassy Belfast, as you can tell, by the magic of technology. We're doing this in December. I'm at Genesys. I am responsible for our digital and AI efforts. And at Genesys, for those of you who don't know Genesys, we're all about experience as a service and helping organizations deliver end-to-end CX from the cloud. I'm looking forward to speaking with you today.
Thank you very much. A very warm welcome as well. And Martin.
Hi, I'm Martin Taylor. I'm Deputy CEO, co-founder of Content Guru. Content Guru is a cloud-native contact center as a service platform. We've got bases around the world. We're UK headquartered, but we've got organizations, customers across North America, Europe, and Asia.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. So the game has certainly changed, hasn't it? The ability for organizations to scale up and down as required has never been so important. Equally, customer demands are rapidly changing too. So to get this session started today, Martin, I'd like to ask you, what do customer demands look like in 2021 from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Last year was definitely the year of needing to scale. We found some of our customers were scaling 50 times, for example, a benefit claim line, or 14 times for a health service line. So that ability to scale, we're carrying that forward into this year. So really, it's about scaling, and that really means the cloud. So I think demands in 2021 are that move to the cloud. It's omni-channel, so the need to bring all of those communication channels together. So not just obviously voice and chat, but also things like email, WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, Trustpilot, and any other channels that we come up with over the course of the year. So I think cloud is the one place where we can really bring all of those together and deliver them to contact center workers, agents, whatever you want to call them, working in a distributed format. So I think, obviously last year was the working from home out of necessity, and that was very new in the contact center world. This year, it's all about distributed working. So it's coming back into the contact center, but also we've found actually that the from home bit worked rather well. Agents like it. Many of them have wanted to work from home before, but weren't able to. So it means we've got more flexibility available. So as that demand for flexible working, we can have shorter shifts. If we don't need to come in to a contact center, we can have a 2-hour shift after the school run, or we can fit in going for a run or a dog walk. So there's that flexibility. And I think as well, from the consumer perspective, they're not going to tolerate any kind of substandard service this year. They were pretty lenient last year. They recognized everyone was having maybe to lash things together, make do and mend. I think this year they're going to expect excellent customer service, a great customer experience, whatever the channel they come in on, whether they're talking to a human or they're self-servicing. And I think, again, there'll be demands for improved self-service, quick and easy. So really, that's it. In the cloud, more self-service automation, the omni-channel, and great service, the ability to scale. So not too many demands there then.
Not too many, no. Fantastic. Some really good points made there. Richard, what's things look like from your perspective?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we asked what consumer demands look like in 2021. I think they haven't changed. I think it's just as Martin was reflecting there, it's obviously the difference now is that there's nowhere for businesses to hide. I was reflecting there recently at Facebook's acquisition of Customer, and I was starting to look back at social customer service when a lot of digital customer service, I suppose, in many ways took on a new meaning And that was maybe 10 years ago. But it's been that length of time that consumers have been expecting and demanding to be able to engage with brands where they're at over messaging channels, like as Martin was saying, on the web, via channels that we may consider to be traditional, like voice and email and things like that. But consumers have always demanded that they be able to engage with brands in that way. And what 2020 did was kind of give organizations nowhere to hide. The organizations that had failed to really take that seriously had suffered as a result. So 2021 is going to be about making that real now. I'm reminded of a comment a client of ours mentioned to me through 2020, that many of these digital initiatives that they've tried over a number of years were innovations, they were experiments, they were fun, they were good to try. But you could always fall back on your core kind of call center-y type business. Now that's no longer the case. That digital is now fundamental to how consumers engage with brands. And I agree with Martin as well, from an organization, from a brand point of view, that cloud flexibility, agility really is crucial. I would also want to add in that I think the role of the employee and the life of the employee has really fundamentally shifted as well. And we've gone from an era where, contact centers may be massive rooms full of people with supervisors able to walk the floor and see how their staff are doing, to the complete opposite now. The supervisors they don't have the ability to do that as much as they did in the past. And so being able to show empathy to consumers is one thing, and deliver great experience to consumers, but being able to show empathy and engagement with your employees who are delivering that CX is going to become crucial in 2021 as well.
Yeah, some really interesting points made there too. I like the point you just made around kind of possibly the distribution of agents in the contact center is potentially a catalyst for better customer experience. As a result of just giving them a new working environment, maybe giving them back their names, rather than numbers. So it's interesting. Really, really good point. And just to stay with you, Richard, on this one, just to talk about maybe some of the decisions that business leaders and customer experience leaders need to consider to meet these new demands. What do you think on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things for me, and I'm going to reinforce Martin has said it. I said it a minute ago myself as well. You've got to be digital, and so you really have to be able to incorporate all of these different digital channels and ways for your customers to engage with you. You've got to be able to bring those in, and don't treat them as isolated, siloed concerns. They are a fundamental part of that, omni-channel experience. But actually, it goes even further than that. Most organizations today have massive data silos. They'll have a lot going on in the marketing world, a lot of pseudo-anonymized one-to-many data that sits out there, and they'll have a lot of one-to-one conversational data that sits within customer operations. And it's surprising that when we talk about end-to-end customer experience, most organizations still have those domains separate and a different technology stack on both sides. I think it's really crucial that business starts to connect those data gaps. The technology actually makes it relatively easy to do, but it's really hard organizationally, because quite often you've got different C-level stakeholders responsible for different parts of that customer experience. But the brands that are going to stand out and are going to differentiate in the market are the ones that really can connect those data silos and be able to take action on that data right across the end-to-end customer experience.
Great, thanks, Martin. What do you think on that one? From what do CX leaders and decision makers really need to consider to meet these new demands?
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree that the CX has never been as strategic as it is now. So it is the big differentiator now. Previously, it was seen as kind of a cost center, and so the focus was naturally on cost reduction measures. I think it's now definitely arrived in the course of last year as this value center that we always thought it was. And so it's getting proper attention at the C level. It's not just the kind of IT or the telecoms manager or something that's going to look after it. And so decision-wise, that means they're operating with a bigger toy box, I think, now, because they've become more strategic. hopefully they should get more investment. It's not about lashing things together, and we're going to keep that running because we've written it down, and we can still get the spares, so it's all right. So now it's a matter of, okay, your CX is your life or death differentiator versus your competitors. So how are you going to equip yourself for that advantage? And again, harking back to an earlier point, the AX, the agent experience, that's much more to the fore in 2021. The agent was a kind of neglected figure for many years, and really high churn rates were tolerated. Now, as we saw through last year, churn's a real problem, particularly if you're in a distributed working environment. So you want to keep these people happy. You want them to have a single interface to work from to cut down on their workload, because workload always appears as that number one source of job dissatisfaction. So we want to improve their life, deliver all the channels to them in the right way, so they're not having to tab around kind of one tab to another, and it takes them months to learn it. And I think with technology, again, we can make decisions in 2021 about, are we going to equip our agents perhaps with more AI-based technologies so we can be feeding them knowledge during a call, for example. So we might be listening to what the caller is saying all the way through the call using natural language processing and prompting the contact center worker with things to say based on kind of knowledge management and available knowledge sources. So they're not having to spend about 10 to 15% of time looking things up. They've got the facts at their fingertips. They can get on with helping people. So again, the other decision will be, I think, around not just that distributed working and being in the cloud, but how much are we going to automate? What are we going to automate? How are we going to automate it? So that we're going to maybe look with an eye to costs, but we're going to improve that customer experience, give ourselves that differentiation over similar rivals. So it was definitely some big decisions for all of these guys right through 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like the first big step that a lot of organizations have to make, if they didn't make it in 2020, was just get your contact center in the cloud to start with, because that is where everything happens now, isn't it? That's where all the clever stuff happens, especially, as you mentioned, augmented agents, which we're hearing lots and lots about in the news now. So really interesting. So final question for me today. Maybe Martin, please jump in on this one first, if you don't mind. We're still living and working in real uncertain times at the moment. So how can organizations kind of best prepare themselves for another challenging year?
Yeah, obviously we've got the vaccines coming through, thank goodness. But I think we're not quite finished with this virus yet. And there will be local flare-ups. Viruses tend to mutate. So we can't just sit back and think, wow, we got through last year. That's all job done, back to normal now. Because we've got to be, I think, prepared for more disruption. And I think being in the cloud gives us that capability to switch our center of balance. So we can go back to full home working if we need to, but we'll be able to do it better than we did in 2020. We will have, for example, better support for our workers. We'll be able to monitor them remotely. We'll be able to see if they're saying the right things. We've got the compliance, the performance management, the audit side of things. We've got peripherals like PCI payments sorted, so that we can operate all of those key aspects of transacting as well as helping from a distributed working environment. So I think being ready for more disruption, definitely. It's going to be a tough economic environment, no doubt about it. So they're not just in hotels, airlines, and so on, which, of course, they're going to be experiencing a bounce back, but they've had a real ravaging 2020. So they're going to be working off a restricted investment base, I think. So keeping an eye on costs. So again, automation is a great way to keep costs down. For example, if we're able to use natural language processing to find out who someone is, we're going to ask them some questions, find out what it is they want. We're going to open a case, and then we're going to put that in front of our contact center worker, ready to go. So maybe take a minute out of a call right there. So if you're taking a minute out of perhaps a an 8-minute transaction or something, and you're doing 1 million of those a year, suddenly that's making a major impact in your cost base. Reducing training time, again, through support through technology. So fewer things to look up, because we're going to be using tech in the background to find the information that's needed and put it out there for the agent to utilize. So that's going to involve things like stereo listening. So some extra bits of tech that are going to be required. Embrace the distributed working, because that's going to drive down agent churn. Agent churn's always had a cost. Usually it's calculated at around $8,000 for a direct churn occasion. So yeah, let's drive that down, have happy agents. Let's really look at tech as the enabler of great customer experience. Again, recognizing that customer experience is absolutely strategic. Is not something that's just an adjunct to your CRM or something. This is a proper thing in itself, worthy of investment, both the customer experience and invest in that agent experience. So yeah, it's going to be a challenging year, but there's some enormous opportunities for people to leverage that superior CX and gain competitive advantage.
Well, thanks, Martin. There's certainly lots of work to be done. And Richard, from your perspective, how can organizations prepare for 2021?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, you say, another challenging year. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist, and so I when I look at 2020, and yeah, there were challenges for sure, but as Martin says, there are massive opportunities, and really, what last year, what 2020 did for us was, help kind of almost bring us right up to the present in terms of what's available. And for me, we now have an opportunity to embrace what we've learned. And what we've kind of been forced into it in 2020, but we now have the opportunity to embrace it and build on that. And whether it's really embracing digital CX as part of your end-to-end customer experience strategy, whether it's much more agility, even just with how your employees and your agents and your employees can work. I would also say that. I think innovation has maybe taken a slight back step through 2020, because the focus was a lot more on keeping business going. I think innovation will start to come back to the fore again, and again, as Martin has kind of reflected on this a little bit as well, with artificial intelligence and things like that. And now that your customers are now more digital than ever, it also means that the volume of interactions and digital data that you've got to play with is kind of off the scale now, and it's really exploded. So that presents some particular challenges, such as how do you make sure that you can automate in a smart way repeatable transactions and repeatable queries in that kind of scale, but also how do you find those customers that really need your help. So whether you're you're trying to drive up digital sales or digital customer service or a mixture of both, you've got a lot more customers and visitors now to deal with. So how are you going to find out who is the customer that really needs your help? And you've limited resources in your cloud contact center now. So how do you make sure you're using those in the most optimal way and engaging with the right customer? And that's one of those areas where artificial intelligence can really help by observing online journeys in real time and then making real-time predictions about the outcomes of these journeys, and then identifying who, when, and how to engage those online visitors to make sure that your employees, your agents, are able to engage the people that really need help, either to buy a product or to complete a service transaction. So I think, as I say, I'm an eternal optimist. I think we learned a lot through 2020. I think as we go into 2021, let's embrace it. And let's build on it, let's make 2021 the year that we've really embraced end-to-end digital and cloud-based customer experience.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your insights today, gents. It's been really great talking to you. So, yeah, thank you for joining me.
Been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, there's lots more like it at our annual conference and expo, UC Summit 2021. Thanks for watching.